we hired Gateway, that's part of their contract, is that they inspect the roads.
They're all
So that, we don't
certified.
have to pay them any additional money to inspect the roads.
It's based on a contract percentage. So that's all the case.
So we pay them as they go out.
They went on.
This isn't
We
something
pay
that
two
if we
people
don't,
now.
Frank, we don't spend the money.
You pay someone who has an education and education.
We're fighting for that one.
They still spend money anyway.
Yeah.
You have so many watching where the contract with us to do it, where it's a combination of both, whatever it is. I mean, last year was a combination. You had a person there, Frank was there.
Did you have one less person there when Frank was there then, Dan?
That's correct.
What is the rate, what is the charge that you, or what do you charge to send someone out to inspect?
We can do the same thing with our, what do they call? Bill. Foreman. We can do the same thing with our foreman, is that correct?
They got no experience, right?
I need those forms to direct.
Is he scared to say
That's right, they won't have the qualifications, and neither does Frank. So somebody like Bill Waddle or someone from Gateway, should be going out and doing the inspection, someone who's qualified to do it.
Frankie, is certification required?
No, it's not required, but you should have field experience to know what's happening in the field, to direct people, to make proper decisions, slopes of roads, be able to take measurements, field quantities.
That's what we have a public works director for.
Well, Gateway supplies the field inspector for the paving. When the position was abused, from what I've seen, he inspected line painting, he inspected sealing, he inspected milling. People don't need to be there then. When you're milling,
Please repeat what you're saying, because she's talking
well,
over me to...
I've seen what he's done. He's inspected line painting at South Point
Shut up,
Boulevard,
Cindy.
sealing of edges of paving, worked 12 hours for milling when you're grinding up the road, throwing it in the truck and dumping it somewhere else, which he diverted truckloads of millings to other sites at Stepford Township properties. Those millings belong to Cecil Township. They're not the fault of the truck driver from Frank to take them and dump them somewhere else and be used for their own personal gain. That's step by deception.
That's enough accusations right now.
What's the truth, Andy?
We're gonna move on.
I'm a man of integrity and honesty, and that's what happened. I can get the truck drivers from Shields Paving and Slippery Rock to testify to this happening, okay? This is not the type of individual we need out inspecting when he's dumping millings in Henderson Parks and different places. Yeah, nobody knows about this.
That's still out there and it's going to be put.
Where's it going to, Frank?
Henderson Park.
Where?
Parking lot in Hendersonville.
We're
Trail, I'll
stopping,
put it down as soon as I get our grader down there.
we're stopping
That's
right
what
now.
they've
and
done free.
It isn't going anywhere yelling back and forth at each other and throwing accusations back, so.
Throwing accusations, I speak the truth,
And
man.
there was no definitive answer, the motion didn't pass. The next thing I'd like to bring up is the bids on a used paper, what they would cost. We actually had Bill, they came out and they showed us what they said our paper was worth. And what I'd like to do is I'd just like to find out if we can find out what bids are for pavers in the area. So we found out what our old one is worth, we found out what it costs to repair it. Let's find out, put out for bids and see what's available in the area. And then maybe next month we can compare everything together and see at that time what we feel would be the best thing to do.
The trader value, or the current value of our paper, as a trader would be $8,000. If we were to look to buy one, it would be approximately $9,000 to $10,000. And the repair estimate for the guy at the present time is $61,000.
Well, let's just find out what's available on the market in
Why?
the newer used model before we do anything whatsoever. That way we'll be able to say we did a due diligence on everything and compared everything together.
I have a question.
Does the board?
What? I'm sorry.
I
I want to know why we keep this to the very last item on the agenda. Jim was here, our mechanic, and wanted to speak to the subject, but they were out late working last night. Why are these put on in a secret way at the very end of the meeting? Why wasn't it
There
put
was
on the agenda?
nothing secret about this, Elizabeth.
Why wasn't
I
it-
had different things that I wanted to go over.
Why
These
wasn't
were
it
some
on
of the
the
notes that I
agenda?
made.
Why wasn't it on the agenda, Andy?
Because I had these that I just came up with and I said I wanted to go ahead and do this.
You just
So
said...
I came up with these things and I put them at the
Next
end.
time, would you put it on the agenda, put it first, if you're going to bring it up?
I just want to find out right now what's available.
Sandy, can I make a comment? This is just a suggestion, being Tommy Cassiola, him being much more adept here too in the construction business. When we buy our trucks, we buy new trucks. If we're gonna buy a paver, we need a paver, go buy a paver.
We don't
We
need
don't
a
need it.
paper, we
I don't know
have
that
a
you want to
paper.
spend that much on something like that.
We have a good
We don't
paver.
need a
If we have
paver.
one and it's, we
Mom.
either fix the one you have, that you know what you have, or turn around. If you're gonna buy a new one, we have trucks
Okay, we're
too,
not
but
talking
we still
about
buy
buying
new
anything.
trucks.
I just want to find out what's on the market out there and see what's available.
Let me tell you something, at the meeting last month, I don't know if you were here, but we approved up to $15,000 for repairs to this paver. Yes, we did.
No, we didn't.
We approved up to $15,000.
We put it, it was put in the budget it was put in the budget in December. It was not approved.
We now have a price to fix it. We now have a price to fix the paver, which is really minor repairs, $6,200. In the last 15 years that we've had our paver, we've only spent $5,000 in repairs. It's in very good condition considering its age. Why are we talking about buying something that we don't need? My
So
idea,
we're not
I'm
talking
not
about.
finished, please. My thought,
Cindy, have some respect for her, please. Have some respect for her. You just holler at us when we speak up.
Let them finish. Elizabeth, you have the floor. Go ahead and finish.
it's very brief. My thought is this. If we're going to get another paver, we keep this one and we have paver races. I went to school in New London, Connecticut, and they used to have submarine races.
Well, what we need to
We're
do
not
right now
sending-
is
yeah.
see what's on the market out there.
So
We're
we
talking
make an
about a paper
educated
that's valued at
decision.
$8,000, putting $6,200 into something that's valued at $8,000. Let's just see what's on the market before we make any decisions whatsoever.
Not
And that's all.
talking- We're not talking about going out to bid, we're
Today's
just
a good
talking about
match.
understanding.
Nothing wrong with it.
If we're gonna put $6,200 into something that's only worth $8,000, we wanna understand everything that's on the market. We're not trying to say, we're not gonna put the $6,200 in, we're not saying that we're gonna go out and buy a brand new paper, we're just trying to make an educated decision.
But I think there was a concern from the residents that there was talk about buying a $55,000 or $50,000 paper that the mechanic said was a piece of junk. That's
And it was
Yes.
all
Wouldn't
Pacific
even
paper.
start it for you. The radiator style, what are they going to do if it's a head gasket broke? What if
We're not talking about that specifically.
We're just
Well,
finding
that's a
out
part of
everything that's on the market in the area.
Buying a piece of junk.
I wish she would have respect for
What?
her elders.
There's nothing saying we're gonna buy that paper.
I don't know.
Looking at it. You've been trying to buy it for 2 years.
We're buying a piece of junk. We're buying it.
Now, I was recommended by Cleveland Brothers when I was looking at stuff
Well,
a
if
year
you're
ago.
going by Cleveland, well, I was thinking about cooking cap off, what they charge me? $600 and some dollars for an hour?
$678.
But that was recommended to take a look at it.
If you knew paper, you wouldn't want that paper.
Don, would you get together and just see what's on the market out there, okay? So that we can have some information for the next meeting. Just find out what's available.
There's someone from the audience.
Okay, go ahead.
Just one quick question or thought. I mean, up there, raise your hand if you're knowledgeable in the paving industry. You got one guy over there that, that's what you hired him for as the public works director. Should that be his AO? That's what you hired him for.
You listen,
Shouldn't that be no?
Nobody's telling me how many things I did in paving. I built plants, I did the inspection, I did design work, and I run the equipment myself and run crews.
No, you didn't.
All right, well, all things set aside, you do have someone there too, but my question is this. I mean, you're paying him good money to do that job. Why are you guys getting involved with that? I mean, you got enough
You
to
should
do.
be taking the expert's
You
advice.
hired him to do that job.
Take the
I
expert's
mean, you
advice.
guys are micromanaging now to
At the
everything.
last meeting, if you had been at the last meeting, you would have heard his advice. We do not need another paver. That ours can be, the minor repairs are very reasonable.
I also called Bill when we got his report, we had a conversation. I have a plan to sit down and meet with him. He did not disagree with going out and making an educated decision before we put $6,200 into an $8,000 paper, a paper that's worth $8,000.
But the paper we
That
have
don't mean
works.
nothing.
We
You're
bought
gonna
it
get
brand
production.
new.
Guys, hold on one second. This meeting, Buggy's the only one following those school rules. So So if you want to address the board, let's try to do it one at a time, because the same complaints you have from up here, it's tough to follow the bouncing ball. And the other townships I deal with, everybody's got to come forward, state their name, their address. So, and I think you should speak because you all show up, so you should say what you want to say, but let's try to keep it a little bit more organized.
Same way up there at the board too. One person at a time talk up there on that board instead of one chirping in the other's ear.
I agree, and let's try it so we can hear everybody out one at a time without shouting.
Okay, one more comment, and we're going to move on. Go ahead.
Where did you get the $8,000 for our paver?
The Rudd Equipment that did the estimate on what it would cost to repair gave us that estimate of what the paver was worth.
Worth how? How was it worth? What was it worth for?
The fixed value or the broken value?
Value right now.
Okay, here, give me a minute and I'll read it to you. Bill, our trade value on your Blanox P5 150 would be $8,000.
Well, I'll tell
That's
you
where it
what,
came from.
you got a lot of smart people up there. You know that a trade-in value is not a true value. What you want to do is try to buy that paver, the same model that you have, and see what you're going to pay for it. Don't look at the trade-in value. You know yourself, when you go buy a car and you get the trade-in value, that trade-in value should mean nothing.
Yeah, usually when you go to buy a car though, if you're buying a new car and you have one that's worth $5,000, they usually give you $7,000 on your deal for it. They give you more than they want because they want you to buy that new vehicle.
That's because they upped the price of the car to begin with.
Getting carried away again. We're just going to have you, Bill, sit down and go ahead and get some ideas and put it out in bid and find out what the costs are. We're not going to do anything but just see what the costs are. Now the next thing I wanted to talk about was in March I want to have an informational workshop on oil and gas ordinance as it applies. It complies with the Act 13. John, we discussed this. In March, I'll be asking in the beginning of March to come up with some dates because I think the first thing we need to do is look at a workshop to explain where Act 13 sets with us and what we have to do.
Yeah, I think it makes sense at some point. Obviously, there's a reconsideration motion pending before the Supreme Court. But I think the workshop would give us an opportunity to sit down, look at what we have, to see if we need to make any changes in order to comply with the constitutional constraints the court's discussed.
And the way I'm understanding it, it's just an informational meeting, though.
Yeah, there'd be no action.
No action, but to go ahead and get the ideas out there is what the Supreme Court means to us as township.
Yeah, and I think just to revisit, we have several ordinances, just to revisit what they look like. If the board has any ideas or input on changing those, leaving them the same. There were certain provisions that the court struck down that we were preempted prior to that, so it's probably, now that the court has found that we're not preempted, we have to look at certain features that I think we even regulated at one point, we took out, we put back, so it'll be kind of a work in progress. But I think it's way too premature to put anything on the books or to move towards an ordinance passage until we get a lot of thoughts out and see what the court ultimately does with this case.
Okay, so in our next meeting in March, we'll see where we're at.
Yeah, I think at that point, if the board wants to set up a workshop where there's, just say, hey, to talk about the nature of our ordinances, what we want to maybe see change, what we want to leave the same, it's probably worth having some input.
Okay.
This would be a public meeting.
Yeah, and I think if there are questions about the decision, to the extent the court has given us some finality, we can speak to that at that time as well.
Okay. Now, the next thing I would like to bring up is about, I brought this up last month about cameras in a meeting room here so that we can put this on the website. So if you can't make it to a meeting, I know other townships like Robinson have done it pretty inexpensive, and I had Dawn look at a few and try to research it. Dawn, have you made some contacts for us?
We've talked to one professional